Good morning. This is a board workshop on September 30th, 2025. The time is 8:17 a.m. and this meeting is called to order. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming bright and early at 8 a.m. I really do appreciate the time that you've taken out of your schedules to try and get this completed. I want to thank Ms. Collins for all of her work helping us get an updated version of the board operating procedures. I know she's very busy, and I want to thank Ms. Carrasco as well for being here early. I appreciate that. So the updated version you have includes the revisions that we discussed last time. Just a reminder, we do have to adjourn by 8:59 a.m. Sezzy, can you tell me exactly where we left off? Because I don't want to miss anything.
We did. You left off, it should be page 13 of your copy, participating as a board member, participating in the board meeting as a board member.
Okay. To give my voice a break, I'm going to ask one of you to volunteer to read this. And then it looks like there's not a whole lot of redlined. But if we could just, somebody wants to volunteer to read 1 through 4.
Right up here. I'll do it. Participating in the board meeting as a board member. 1, anytime a majority of the members of the board are gathered to discuss district business, it is considered a meeting and must be posted as such according to board policy in the Texas Open Meetings Act. 2, unless a quorum majority of the members of the board is established, no business of the board can be conducted. 3, all board members will be prepared to address items on the agenda. 4, the board president will have full authority to follow and enforce Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, designated in policy as the board's parliamentary authority, except as modified by board policy. Is this part of 4?
Oh, yeah, I guess there's a fifth.
Yeah. A board member shall not use coercive means or promise special treatment in order to influence board or district decisions, nor use his or her position to seek personal advantage.
Any issues or any suggested adjustments? Okay. Okay. The next section. Anybody? Yeah, Dr. Levitch.
Participating as a board member. 1, the board meeting is held in public to facilitate public understanding, not for the purposes of public participation. However, at all regular board meetings, the public may address the board during the public forum portion of the meeting. Persons wishing to address the board during public forum shall comply with the provisions of the policy BED local that outline the specific times, procedures applicable to the public comments during board meetings. Anything on this? 2, during the public forum section of the meeting, board members will listen to comments, but as the designated spokesperson, only the presiding officer may respond if a response to the speaker is required. Those responses are limited to A, specific factual information, B, recitation of existing policy. Any comments? 3, speakers with specific complaints shall be referred to the administrative resolution process established in board policy as follows. Employee complaints, DGBA, student or parent complaints, FNG, public complaints, GF.
Quick question, what is the acronyms, BED? Does it specify it in here somewhere?
So that's just the reference to the policy, the actual policy. You can look online and Trustee Osterlund and see the policy manual.
Oh, on the back page?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we have a board policy, and that board policy has
all the
a
acronyms?
ton of different legal policies, local policies. So these are specific to either the legal or the local policies.
Okay.
This might be a bit tedious, but would it be possible to get those policies linked within the PDF document?
Yeah, I'm sure that won't be an issue.
4? 4.
Next one? Oh,
Yeah.
Oops, my
No,
bad.
yeah, got it. The board must bear in mind that persons who speak during public forum have First Amendment rights. The board should seek legal advice before disallowing a person's contribution to public forum based solely on the content of the speaker's comments.
And then there's a strike through here on number 5. I guess the previous version said that we had to limit that, and now I suppose it's optional, says he?
Sorry, I'm going to pull up the policy really quick. It's BED.
So before it was 60 minutes allotted for public comments?
The way that it was written before, I think the one that's currently exists is that we had to limit the total time for public forum. I know we've exceeded that, but I'm just wondering from Sezi if there's,
So I don't, to be honest, I don't know the reason that the trustees that worked on the strike-throughs here struck it, except for the fact that maybe it was repeating what was in policy, so they felt like it wasn't necessary to go ahead and put it in the board operating procedures. BED does say at regular meetings, the board may elect to hear for up to 1 hour of public comment.
okay, so maybe the operative word there is may versus will, so that makes sense. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So,
I have a question about 4. Whenever it says the board should seek legal advice, does that mean like immediately right then? Like what happens when there's personal attacks from commenters or people that speak and you can't respond? Can you ask for assistance immediately during the meeting?
Yes, and that's happened in the past. I mean,
Okay.
in prior meetings, there's been allegations of personal attacks, and they've referred to or asked me to comment on it, and I generally do.
Okay.
So, yes, and any time during a board meeting, if there's a question that a board member has, they can certainly ask for my opinion. If I think it's something that would be attorney-client privilege, then I will cite the exception to go into closed session and take the board into closed session for discussion of that.
Okay. Just want to be clear on that.
any other questions, comments?
Okay. I'm ready? I got this one. Oh, I'm
There's
sorry.
one more.
Yeah,
I do have a clarifying question regarding 2A and B. With regard to specific factual information, is that something that on the dais the board would be able to consult with administration on? This seems like a very fast thing. So is it something that already has to be on the mind and confirmed by said trustee? If a public commenter is saying the deficit's X million dollars and it's actually X million, Y million dollars, are you able to then say, well, no, that's not accurate, and have it confirmed by administration in real time?
So what this particular 2A and B, what this is talking about, if there is a comment in public forum by the member of the public that, let's just say, you take your example, the costs were $3 million, no matter what I don't know the topic, right? And it's actually was only $1 million. What this is addressing is under the Open Meetings Act, the board can only discuss things that are properly posted. And for public forum, you never know what the public is going to speak about, so you're not properly posted necessarily for the items that they want to address the board with. Under the Open Meetings Act, the things that you are able to do is to respond with specific factual information or request the item to be put on for a future meeting. So yes, you could respond back with, it wasn't $3 million, it was really $1 million. However, the better practice sometimes is just to listen to the public, just to make sure that you're not violating the Open Meetings Act.
So.
You're welcome.
Clarifying questions, so the operating procedures say that the presiding officer is the only one that can respond. If another trustee has a concern about an issue, how do they go through the presiding officer in that situation, or don't, or do they, don't they, can they?
Typically, it goes through the presiding officer. Other times, I think that the superintendent has corrected misinformation, but mostly the board just sits and listens on the dais to what's being said, and if there is a need to clarify that in the future, you could do so.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible to have, let's say, a fact check after that we can publish on our website? Questions that are posed here or statements, comments that are not factual, we can post it, fact checks on our website. Hey, these are the questions that were posed or statements that were posed, and here's the facts that will support it. Maybe something.
And Trustee Hanani, to your point, the operating procedures as it's written there, you are correct. It does say that the designated spokesperson and only the presiding officer may respond, but the policy itself actually reads that specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board or the board committee may not deliberate or decide the subject of anything that's not included on a posted agenda. So this may be more limiting as a matter of course, and just so that it doesn't become very chaotic on the dais as to who's responding. It may be more appropriate to funnel that through the board president, or for that board member to direct the question to the board president, so that you are not having this back and forth dialogue at public comment. That's really what this is intended to prohibit.
Okay, thank you. That is helpful clarification. Okay, Trustee Osterlin, you're up.
Okay, request information not related to agenda items. Number one, members should request information not related to a meeting agenda item directly from the superintendent. Number two, the superintendent will determine if the information requested is available from existing sources or records. Number three, if the requested information can be provided from readily available data with no diversion from staff time, then it will be provided to all board members. Number four, individual board members shall not direct or require direct employees to prepare reports or any other information existing district records, or to create a new record compiled from information in existing district records. In the event that the request requires a specific or special report that will divert staff time from established priorities, the superintendent will notify the requester on the board and the board president of its facts. Directives to staff regarding the preparation of the report shall be by board action. Number five, all board members will receive a copy of any report generated by the board members' request in accordance with this procedure. Okay, so here's section, are we doing that section 11.1512
Want me to take it?
of the education code, well remembered?
Yes, section 11.1512 of the Education Code was amended to require a school district to provide a member of its Board of Trustees when acting in the member's official capacity access to any information, documents, and records maintained by the school district without requiring the member to submit a request under the Public Information Act, Chapter 552 of the Government Code. However, a school district is permitted to withhold or redact information requested by a board member to the extent the item is accepted from public disclosure under the Public Information Act or other law, including records not subject to disclosure under FERPA. Additionally, Section 11.1512 requires the school district to report annually no later than September 1 of each year to the Texas Education Agency the number of requests submitted by a member of its Board of Trustees during the preceding school year and the total cost to the district for that school year of responding to such requests. Can you, this is kind of a lot, Sezzy, can you just kind of talk about the spirit of this section?
Well, I would say that perhaps it needs to be modified because the date of the amendment is probably at some point, it's kind of outdated, and so we're probably used to it. And recently, there were some changes in the 89th legislative session to the right of access by board members to records. However, it didn't change existing law. So I could take a look at this and see if there's a way to modify it, but in general, board members have a right to access to information without making a Public Information Act request. So if you are seeking information, generally what you do, what you do is you make those a request through the superintendent, and the superintendent would make those records available to you as board members. If there is confidential information in there, it can be redacted. The new law, it states that if there's confidential information, if it's attorney-client privilege information, it may, the district may ask for a confidentiality agreement with regards to the records that are provided to the board member. But in general, this section is to make sure that board members are entitled that it's known that board members are entitled to information and records and don't have to go through the Public Information Act process. So what I could do is see if I could clean this up a little bit to make it more concise, if you would like.
I think that works. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. And then I did not realize this about the number of requests being submitted to the Texas Education Agency. Is that just to track the number of hours that board members are asking districts to use? Is that what that is for?
I don't know right now the specific intent of the law with regards to that, but I would imagine that that is the case.
And then every request that's made by a board member for information is then given to all board members, correct?
Yes, that's what the district does.
Okay. Any questions about anything? Okay. I'll take the next section, although this is a section that we can probably talk about and may change a little bit with SB 12. Board committees and conducting board committee meetings. Board committee meetings are designed to facilitate in-depth dialogue between the administration and trustees, enabling thorough discussion of matters prior to board action. These matters include those that are time-sensitive or discussion-intensive, required by law, rule, or policy, or is necessary for the efficient and effective operation of the district. Am I going too fast? Am I speed reader? Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I slowed down. A board committee is a committee composed only of current board members. Formation of a board committee shall be by board action. When establishing a board committee, the board action shall, at a minimum, specify the number of board members on the committee, process to appoint board members to the committee, term of committee membership, and responsibilities of the committee. Better? Is that better? A board committee shall be fact-finding, deliberative, and advisory, and shall make recommendations in the areas of their responsibility. Board committees shall report their findings and recommendations to the board and shall not assume administrative duties or responsibilities. Designated board committees are Audit Committee. Members are responsible for engaging with the Chief Internal Auditor with the intent to understand and evaluate the Internal Audit Department's activities in accordance with Board Policy CFC. Advisory committees, okay, that's separate. So let's talk about this first. So the Audit Committee is listed here because it is the only committee that is required by policy for us to have. And so that is why we will always have an Audit Committee. There has in the past been committees for academics, for policy, finance and operations. Those are pretty standard. Those are kind of the three most standard committees. Essentially, two, Ms. Collins, two board members would be assigned? No, three.
So the policy was recently changed with regards to board committees, and that was on July, I think it was adopted on July 29th, but we didn't have a board meeting in July, so I don't know why it says that date. But in essence, board committees are formed by the board and shall be by board action. So this is current policy BDB, and it basically says that when the board establishes a board committee, that the board shall, at a minimum, say what's the number of members on the committee, the process to appoint the members, the term of the committee membership, and the responsibilities of the committee. So I think at this point, because this is something with the prior board, prior superintendent, that was in flux for quite some time about what board committees were necessary. Obviously, you mentioned the audit committee, so we could set that one aside. But I think that there was some discussion among board members whether or not certain committees were actually needed. And so they were trying to look at utilizing board members' time appropriately and efficiently. So I think that this is something that the board probably needs to discuss as to what committees are necessary. And of course, that's by board action now, under the local policy.
Okay, perfect. A couple of clarifying questions. With SB 12, committees also must meet outside of working hours, correct? Would that be correct? Or can committees meet during the day?
That is a gray area in the law, and I would have to look and see what other districts are doing and how they're addressing that. But for right now, I would assume that they would need to be, since it's a board committee, they may need to be outside of working hours, especially if it's the board. Now, if we're talking about advisory committees, that's a different policy. So if you're talking about, let's give an example, the SAS committee, that's the one with attendance zones, the school attendance zone committee. Those committee meetings, I don't think would have to be outside typical working hours. Of course, you may want them to be outside typical working hours because they would be comprised of community members, and community members may not be available during working hours.
So I guess because it's a gray area, is there any, and the only reason that I'm asking this is I think it's going to be important as we start to broach the subject. Most of the board members on this board happen to be available during working hours. And because there are a lot of people with, a lot of trustees that have, young kids, it's harder sometimes to arrange to do that work outside, after school. Is there, maybe there's a way to explore like a working group where it would just be two trustees. I'm just trying to think outside the box to see if there's any way to have working groups that can come and address some of these issues during the school day. If you could maybe look into that, I don't know.
I can look into that. We have to be careful about working groups and walking quorums and what we can do, because I wouldn't want to put anybody in jeopardy of violating the Open Meetings Act, but certainly it's something that I could look into. And when I say a gray area, it's not defined in the law. But I think that just like this board workshop, the way things are being interpreted is they need to be outside typical working hours. So that there may be a way, if two trustees were assigned to look into an issue of some sort, or it's just, let me look at it.
Like an ad hoc committee maybe, or something like that.
Right,
Yeah.
and I have to look at it in light of the policy that was recently adopted, and so how those dovetail, and just to make sure that there wouldn't be a possibility of violating the Open Meetings Act.
But also, if we're deciding on this for future boards as well, I mean, we'll have to assume that future boards may not have that flexibility, so,
Well, that's true.
right?
Every board is different. Every board is, the makeup is different, and so you don't know what their circumstances are prior to or after elections, so.
And they can always, if you, let's say you had a lot of board members that were working, they could always schedule a meeting after work hours. So this isn't specific to the schedule. I'm just trying to find out if we're able to have some of these ad hoc discussions, during the day. Yeah. So would this be okay as is, Sazi, do you think, just for now, as a placeholder?
The way it's written right now, because I was looking back at my notes, I believe we revised it with regards to the recently adopted policy. I will double check that, but yes, I believe that this is, yes, it was revised with regards to the current policy BDB. But I can look into the other questions that you're asking.
Okay, thank you so much. And then advisories is going to be, just as Sazi mentioned, something similar but involving the community. Page 16, an advisory committee is a committee composed primarily of district staff, parents, and other community members and/or students. An advisory committee may also include board members in numbers less than a quorum of a board. Formation of an advisory committee shall be by board action. When establishing an advisory committee, the board action shall, at a minimum, specify the number of members on the committee, process to appoint members to the committee, term of committee membership, and responsibilities of the committee. An advisory committee shall be fact-finding, deliberative, and advisory, and shall not assume administrative duties or responsibilities. Advisory committees shall report their findings and recommendations to the board. An advisory committee may transact business only within the specific authority granted by the board. To be binding, all such committee recommendations must be reported to the board at a regular or special meeting for approval and entry into the minutes as a public record. An advisory committee shall be dissolved upon completion of the assigned task or board action. Does policy reflect this?
Yes, this is reflective of the new policy, and that's BDF.
So like the SAG, I'm just going to use just for clarification, the SAG committee as an example. I don't remember us specifying the number of members on the committee. Did we?
I do not. I wasn't involved in the creation of that committee, and so I'm not familiar with how members of the committee were selected. I think that the superintendent, the former superintendent, worked with the operations, chief operations officer to create that committee, so I'm not familiar with it.
So if the committees were created and they didn't follow policy, let's say?
They wouldn't have, well, they didn't, the policy was changed after the SAG.
Got it.
After the SAG committee was already formed. So it's very possible that we do have some committees that were created prior to these policies being in place.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
So does that mean we go back and look at that now? Like, do we currently have committees in place, or do we start over?
I think that we could look at the committees that are currently in place. I know that, for instance, the school attendance zone committee is formed under a different policy. that specifically addresses attendance zones. The SAG committee, I would have to look and see where we are in that process and how it was formed to be able to answer that question.
And are those the only two that we have that are public?
We also have the safety.
Oh,
The safety committee, though, is not a board committee, and it's formed under a different law. And the law specifically details who is to be on that committee and the membership of that. There is a SHAC committee, the School Health Advisory Council, that is also formed under a different law. So there are some committees that are created by law, and then there are committees that boards create.
Can we get a list of that to the board? I don't know who to ask.
We could do that.
Okay.
I'll work with the superintendent to
I was going to
make
say
sure
maybe a current list of the committees that exist and I guess who's on them. And then I guess what kind of appointing needs to happen, if anything?
Yeah, and I would say, Zazie, probably what would be important right now is to consider whether the newly elected trustees have had a chance to appoint their own members to the committee. I don't believe they have yet on some of those. So, thank you. Okay.
Question regarding committees, specifically with audit committee, where's the appropriate place to dig into how that's appointed? And, you know, I understand it's appointed directly by the president. Is there a place to, you know, go into the details on whether the president can, for instance, chair the audit committee, the details of it, and the relationship between internal audit and the board itself?
Okay, so
Is
that
that
should
under
be.
policy, or is that in here?
It's in policy, and so it is under CFC, is it?
The policy, the committee is under BDB. The audit, related to internal audit, it's CFC. But the committee itself is BDB.
So would we have the opportunity at some point to dig into those?
Well, under the BD, bird policy, the audit committee shall be composed of no more than 3 board members, including the chair appointed by the board president. Members of the committee shall perform their duties in good faith in a manner that they reasonably believe to be in the best interest of the community and the district as a whole, with such care as generally a prudent person in a similar position would use those circumstances. The audit committee members are, and it talks about their responsibilities. That's really all it says with regards to the creation of that committee.
Okay, and is there an opportunity to amend or edit that policy
You can always
local.
amend policies, but it would be by board action.
by board action? Okay,
And we just have to properly post.
of course. And second to that, I suppose it's a little bit later, so I'll say the
Okay.
next point. Thank you.
I'm up, I'll do it.
Go for it.
All right. District-issued equipment and supplies. Board members will be loaned a district technology for the purpose of viewing board meeting materials during board meetings. Access cards to the main building and identification cards will also be issued. Other items relating to the role of board members, including stationery and business cards, shall also be provided upon request. All such equipment and other items shall be returned to the district by the board member at the end of the board member's tenure as such. Keep going? Board attendance at graduations. Board members are responsible for attending ceremonies, presenting diplomas, and may be asked to provide a brief speech that the district's communications department will prepare. Current and former board members may, at their option, sit on the stage and hand the high school diploma to their graduating child or grandchild. It will be the responsibility of the former board member to let the current superintendent know that she would like to participate in such graduation ceremony.
So President Hanani, this section, it's highlighted here because this was language that we found from another district. I don't know if that was the intent of the board from at the last workshop. I think it's worthy of a discussion to see what was perhaps wanted.
I think this reflects what Daniel's intention was. The only thing that I think about is that if we're including grandchildren, you could have 3 or 4 trustees sitting on stage one year. And I don't know if that's what we want, or if we want them to just come up for a portion, or if it's fine if they're sitting there. I mean, I'm just sort of thinking the whole thing through logistically.
Yeah, so it could be revised to make sure that I don't know what the intent was, so you're right, this could be a lot of people. So I think you just need to determine what it is that you would like.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I think it's
mean,
fine.
I'm trying to think, there's probably just a few people now that would have grandchildren, and then you add 1 or 2. So you're probably talking about 2 or 3 people total?
Well, I don't know, because it's talking about former board members. So if you think about the number of former board members that the district has had, it could be a lot, right? And so it may be you need to limit it to by invitation only, because it does say may, but at their option. So what does that really mean? And I'm not sure how this has worked in the district that had it in their manual, and right now I'm not remembering. Oh, this is Dallas's language. So we
they're a big
could reach
district.
out to Dallas and see how it has worked in practicality.
Dallas ISD? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they're big enough, if they can handle it, I'm sure we can handle it. They've got double the number of kids, don't they? Yeah, okay.
They're much larger than we
Yeah,
are.
okay. I think that's okay then. We'll just maybe have to look at the nits of how the logistics are and how that's done, but I'm okay with this. I think this certainly represents the spirit of Daniel's intention, and I did ask him, both Daniel and Valerie are sick today, or Daniel wasn't feeling well and Valerie's daughter was not feeling well, so I did ask them to give me any input, and he did say that he thought this was fine, so. Okay.
It's 8:54, just to.
Okay, shoot, wow, that goes fast. So we may need one more. Let me think of if anything. I'm going to ask us to look at the rest of these things individually and give our feedback to SESI. That way we can at least get a draft on the agenda for October. Again, these should be modified yearly, but we can go back and address anything we want at any given time if we think that there's something that will help us to function more effectively and efficiently. We did discuss grievance procedures, I think, last time, right?
No, I don't believe that was discussed. You mean the compliance with the operating
Oh, there we go.
procedures?
I'm going to go over this one just to see if you all have any questions. I think this is an important section. And then I think we'll have to be done after that. Individual board members and/or the superintendent are encouraged to express their concerns about a board member's compliance with board operating procedures directly with that member verbally, followed by any written communication. If the issue is not resolved after personal discussions between the individuals involved, then discussion with the board president is appropriate. The board president shall discuss the concern with the board members in question on behalf of the individual concerned, or the president shall moderate a discussion between those involved. If the concern involves the board president, the board vice president shall serve this role. If the issue still is not resolved, the board president shall place on an item on the next meeting agenda for a closed executive session posted as deliberation of duties of a public officer. Alternatively, 3 board members can notify the board president and request the item be placed on the next meeting agenda. In closed executive session, the individuals with the concern shall state their concern and provide specific examples to support that concern, and the board shall discuss the concern. Among other options to resolve the matter in closed executive session, board members may encourage the board member to attend specific training related to the board operating procedures. the board member in question does not believe his or her behavior is in conflict with board operating procedures, even in the closed/executive session discussion, the matter will be addressed by majority vote of the board in open session with options including but not limited to the following. Require the board member to attend specific training related to the board operating procedures, removal from any board-appointed office, formally reprimanded in public meeting. Discussions about compliance concerns should be intended to resolve the concern while avoiding any punitive actions. Discussions could include reminding the board members whose behavior is in question about the adopted board operating procedures, how the questionable behavior does not comply with those procedures. The discussion could also identify more appropriate alternatives to the questionable behavior or refer the board member to policies or procedures that outline approved ways to deal with the issue that prompted the questionable behavior. While the superintendent is encouraged by these procedures to report to the board president or other members in the event a compliance concern is not addressed individually, board members will not take concerns about fellow board members to the superintendent. So we actually, this is similar language, Jack? I'm seeing 857. Similar language to what we got in leadership training, is that correct?
It is similar, and I think, but not limited to, probably includes the other, items that were highlighted in leadership training.
So this is redlined, or not redlined, this is this is not currently in there?
This is not currently in there, and when these board operating procedures were first being revised, this was new language that was proposed, and it was never really, the discussion never ever finished.
I like this as is. I think it's a good place to start. I do think the board should have a procedure for identifying ways that they can address any other trustees' behavior, whether it's the board president or a member of the board generally. So I'd like to just, I wanted to sort of call it out so that we could have that discussion. It's 8:58, okay.
58.
So on the other things, I think the board evaluation, the superintendent evaluation, we'll probably be handling those. I know we're trying to get back in touch with Ben Mackey to do some governance training.
I know. She knows.
Yeah, if you have questions about the rest, please let Suzy know. Otherwise, I think this version will just go to the agenda. We can take those last discussions at the time. Okay. It is 8:59, and this meeting is adjourned. Trying to get in there.
10, 9, 8.